is January 3rd, 2020. My name is Lori Kurtz. Would you please introduce yourself, say your pronouns if you care to, and tell us what you do?
Yeah, I am Eva Delicious. I go by she, her, and I am a burlesque performer, producer, MC, and teacher.
Great. Just to give you a hard one right off the top, what is burlesque?
My short answer is that it is theatrical stripping that pays a lot less. That's my short answer. The long answer of burlesque is that we can take all sorts of art forms and bring it into the stage. Theater, dance, costuming, acting, and present kind of whatever we want to present. It's one of the reasons I love burlesque. I don't think it has as many boundaries as many other forms of performance and dance performance. And so it's kind of wide open for your own interpretation of the story you want to tell. I think most often in our current culture right now, the story is usually around sensuality and sexuality. But I don't think that's the only way that burlesque can be performed.
Who chooses all those elements that you just named?
I just think the performer draws from what inspires them, their life experience, or what they've seen other people bringing. And that's again why I love burlesque. Is I have grown up dancing and some theater and things like that, and I can bring all of that, and I can choose the music that I want to perform to and the story I want to tell. So yeah, sometimes you're influenced by a theme of a show. You have to, fall into a certain theme of a production, but most of the time the performers have a lot of freedom to do it.
And how do you describe the kind of burlesque you do?
So me personally, it's more along the sensual side of burlesque. It's a feminist practice to me in that I feel still in this day and age, women showing themselves enjoying their sensuality, not necessarily being naked, but enjoying your own sensuality, even for your own purposes and pleasure is still revolutionary. And it's still a thing that is pushed down a lot. And I feel like there is so much shame put on sexuality in general and a lot on women that it's really important for us to be able to go out and share that and inspire other people to be comfortable with their sexuality. I think it's really important to be balanced and comfortable in your sexuality and not shameful around it. And that's where I feel like a lot of things that are not good in our world, like rape culture and women having a harder time being paid for equal work and all those kinds of things. I think a lot of it revolves around sex. And the more we can present it in a joyful, celebratory way that normalizes it and makes it fun and beautiful, what it is our creative spark in the world. That's how we continue to exist in the world. The more we can do that, the more we can balance the energy and make it a fun thing. So that's what my burlesque is about, personally.
So where were you born and where did you grow up?
I was born in South Lake Tahoe, California, and I grew up there and in Nevada. That's where I graduated from high school, kind of right around Lake Tahoe, and then I moved to Los Angeles and eventually started migrating north.
And what did you do in your formative years that led you to performance?
I think I was always a performer. If the family stories are told, are true. I started dance when I was 3 years old. The costumes behind you on the wall, maybe we'll give you a look later, are my first dance costumes that my mom saved. Yep, very cute. And I did that all throughout growing up. In high school, I was cheerleader and on dance team, and I continued dancing into college, more like college level dance courses, which were hard and a little bit intimidating. And then I took a break for a while and came back and started doing other forms of dance. So that was all like tap, jazz, ballet. When I got into high school, the Fly Girls were really popular. In Living Color was a TV show in the 90s. late 80s, early 90s. And so that's kind of where like the hip hop dance that people do started, but it wasn't a thing that was taught when I was growing up. It was really from the streets kind of a thing. So we did our best to emulate. And then I went and I've studied belly dance and samba, some African dance, lots of forms. I just love dancing. I really do. I love dancing and I love sharing it with people. So we would put on talent shows at home all the time. Yeah.
And you mentioned college. Where did you go to college?
I went to Loyola Marymount in Los Angeles.
Right. And so then what brought you to Oregon?
We were living in Northern California, my husband and 2 children, and in a sweet, sweet town, Sebastopol, which is lovely, and it's expensive, and it's small, and I grew up in a small town, and we wanted a little bit more, but not overwhelming. Neither of us wanted. We lived in San Francisco, my husband and I, that's where we met, but we didn't want to move back to San Francisco or another area like that. It was just too busy. And we had both recently been to Portland for fun, and we really, really enjoyed it. And when we started taking a look at just how much more affordable things are, the quality of the schooling that is available to my children is incredible. And my husband loves being close to the mountains, and we're still sort of close to the ocean. And the burlesque scene, honestly, was part of it for me. When I lived in Sebastopol for a while, I was the burlesque scene. I started the shows that were Cabaret de Caliente because right when we moved up, the one person who was doing shows happened to be moving. I performed in what turned out to be her very last show. It was the very first day we moved to town. And I booked the show well before then. So I did the show, and then it turned out that was her last show, and she moved down to Oakland. So I was there, and it's about a 2-hour drive, and people don't realize how far that is. So after a while, I gathered some friends, and we started our own production. Fortunately, I still do shows at that location at Hot Monk in Sebastopol. I'll go down next month and do our Zeppelin show. So yeah, and then somebody else came in and has started doing shows, North Bay Cabaret, and it was a great collaborative experience. We all worked really well together. It's nice, and we still work together. But I wanted to be challenged. I wanted to be in a place where I could learn more, where I could grow more, where I wasn't like the top person in town. And it definitely was that. It was definitely humbling to first arrive, but now it's good.
So just backing up a little bit, what year and how did you get started in burlesque?
So I started in 2010. This December will be my 10th year of performing burlesque. And I had seen burlesque for a little while before I started performing. One of my friends had brought the Velvet Hammer up from LA a couple of times. Yeah, I feel really lucky to have been able to see them in the heyday, when they were all still a troupe. I mean, of course, many of them are still performing and are wonderful, but it was really special to be able to see that. And Hubba Hubba Review was starting to happen in San Francisco. And so there were a few things that were going on. And then Baby Doe had started Teaserama. And she also leads a troupe called the Devilettes, which is a synchronized 60s go-go dance troupe. And my roommate was part of them. And so I just kind of got, pulled in a little bit more. And actually the first time I went to Beehoff was with the Devilettes. Not as a performer, just kind of as a friend. And just the more I saw of it, the more I loved it. I loved how creative the people were. I loved how much fun the women were having. I loved their costumes and their fabulous attitude. And so after I think I was done nursing my second son, I decided I was going to take classes. And so I commuted down to San Francisco to take classes, like a series of classes with Bombshell Betty. My very first class ever was done through Teaserama, and it was with Satan's Angel. Yeah.
And explain who
Satan's
that
Angel is a burlesque legend. She is one of the women who performed really when burlesque was a feasible job that you could do. So in 50s, 60s, 70s, before that, but she performed primarily in the 60s. And she is just what you would think Satan's angel would be. She's a lovely, lovely, sweet, caring person who absolutely took care of her friends and taught me things that still to this day no one has ever showed me. So just to have that, as my first experience was incredible. And she is a spitfire. She didn't take shit from anyone. And she lived her life on her terms, and very inspiring. She's queer in a time when that was physically dangerous on the regular. I know it still is for many people, but, she was vocal and upfront about it. And, so I really admire just not her as a performer, but as a person. So that was pretty incredible.
It's amazing. And then, so moving from there, how did you develop your career from then?
Well, when I first started, I really wanted to have a troupe with other women. Since I come up dancing always in groups and dance companies and things like that, I love that. I love that connection of having a performance group around me. And so that was my initial impetus. I was like, I'm going to go do this and I'm going to create a troupe. And I did have a little troupe for a while. We were called the Verses of Seduction. And our whole idea was to take folk tales and fairy tales and kind of turn them on their head. So we did. We did a few performances in San Francisco. And it was really great. And then, people started moving and separating. And like you do, things like that happen. And I was in Sebastopol by that time. And it was just getting really difficult to go down to Oakland or San Francisco and meet with them. And so then that's when I launched Cabaret Caliente. That happened. And that was a monthly show for a while, which was a lot. It was wonderful. It was challenging because when you're doing a monthly show, you're always working on at least 2 shows. The one that you have coming up and the one that's following, because they come in such quick succession. So, I did that and I continued performing in Oakland and San Francisco when I could, and taking classes and growing. And I think I've just grown to love it so much that I didn't want to leave. And then I had the opportunity to start teaching, well before I thought I would have, honestly. But I had gone into a local pole studio to see if they might sponsor us because it felt like we had similar audiences. And I was hoping that maybe they would bring performers to the stage, that sort of thing. And as I was in there, they asked me if I would be interested in teaching. And so I said, well, it's been a couple of years. I know more than anybody who's just starting, and I do have dance experience. It wasn't like brand new for me. So I tried it and I loved it. I think a lot of it and there have been times when performance has gotten challenging for various reasons, but the teaching is always wonderful. It's such a joy and a treat to be able to open the door for other women and men. I've taught men too. Just to bring them into this world and a place where they are so happy expressing themselves you can't beat it.
And so other things that you do outside of performing burlesque, you've talked about the teaching. Mm-hmm. Anything else? Event planning? You talked about producing.
I do. Yeah, I produce shows. So not as often as I once did, which is nice, actually. It's a better balance for me. Every Valentine's Day-ish, sometimes it's like the week before or the week of, I produce A Whole Lot of Love, which is a Led Zeppelin themed burlesque show. And we're coming up on our 8th year of doing that in Sebastopol. We will be our 4th year in Portland, I think. And we're actually going to do a show in Oakland this year as well. And it's going to be all the same weekend. So, yeah, a little bit crazy. But we're taking advantage of Valentine's Day.
Can you talk a little about how that's organized and all of the skills involved in doing that? Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Is it the same performers?
No.
Okay.
Some of the shows have the same performers, but not all of them. It's a lot of organizing and people management. Before I performed, before I started performing burlesque, years ago, I worked in public relations and organized a lot of events, organized people, organized budgets. And so I feel like many of those skills have transferred and made it a little bit easier for me to start in producing. It's still, there's a learning curve for sure, but managing all the ticket sales, managing all the aspects of promotion, like learning the social media that has happened. When I first started performing, I would bring a CD with my information on it, and then it was like, oh, bring it on your phone. And now it's like, email me a file or upload it to a drive. It's, it's different. And Facebook was just starting. There just weren't a lot of the things that there are now. And so I've learned a lot of those skills. I've done everything at a show. And sometimes at one show, I have taken the tickets, like done the door sales, been the MC and introduced the performers, stage kittens, like picking up all the clothing and the things like that, on top of performing and just managing the whole everything of it. And then I have always tried to get video and photo at our shows. I think it's really important. So I have them pretty much going all the way back to the very beginning of our shows. And yeah, so that's wonderful to have that record and to be able to use it for promotion. And we always share that with the performers so that they have that as well. So I learned to edit videos, so I didn't have to rely on anybody else to do that. And I've learned to edit music, so I can do all that. So burlesque is a lot of bootstrapping and do it yourself. Yeah.
It's the entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah, absolutely. Working 80 hours for yourself so you don't have to work 40 for someone else. That's not what people say.
Yes. You talked about your teaching. You have what's the name of your studio called?
I call it Showgirl Temple.
And why is that?
I wanted a place that would encompass all the aspects of burlesque. And I feel like showgirls are a really sparkling, fun, welcoming version of what you like to see on stage. And, often when you see them out, they're smiling, they're having fun, and they're inviting people to participate in that fun with them. It's not just look at me. It's like, let's have a good time together. And so I wanted to capture that. To be honest, there's a little bit of avoidance of censorship there with social media. Certain words are flagged and are hard to use. So burlesque is actually flagged often and will reduce the visibility of your posts and being able to get information out there. So I've actually tried not to use burlesque in many things that I do as part of the name of it. So Showgirl Temple, and then the temple aspect of it because of the personal development and the teaching part of it that goes with it. So it's not just, performance. It is like, let's come in and learn about ourselves and so that we can figure out how we want to present ourselves to the world. And so I do that with reverence. And it goes back to what I was talking about my performance style, about how I feel like really it's important to convey how beautiful and lovely sexuality is. So yeah, for me, it's kind of bringing that all in.
Is that the body magic that I read about on your website?
Yes, the body magic. Yes. But it's real. I had a really fun conversation with a student recently, and she was talking about how I don't set out and say, we're going to work on your body magic and have it be a really organized thing. But it happens when you're doing it, when you're feeling it. I think anybody who's danced, even a little, when you dance and you move around, you move your energy. You stir things up and you release things, and you can dance through things when you're upset. Sometimes when I'm really upset and I'm having a hard time, I just come in the studio and I dance. And that's my therapy. And so that is the body magic. It is moving that energy and bringing it in and having people who hold that. Sometimes it's just me, but I have other high priestesses who also teach in the Showgirl Temple. And we hold a really loving space for people to explore that. I feel like a lot of people can be performers and everyone can dance. Unfortunately, there's also a lot of judgment in the broader world, and so we're kind of shamed if we're not looking a certain way or moving a certain way or, that sort of a thing. And so we hold a really safe space for people to explore that And just having that of people cheering for you while you're figuring it out and doing these things is incredible.
Yeah. You mentioned that you, excuse me, moved to Portland partially because of the burlesque community. So, what is that like in Portland, the community?
It's interesting. It's much larger than where I was before, and even when I was performing a lot in Oakland and San Francisco, I was still geographically distant, and so it kind of kept me on the sidelines of some stuff. I had thought it would be much more of a collaborative sharing and working together of things, and that could just be like my personal desire on it. And some of it is, absolutely. I think it has taken me a while to find the people who I collaborate well with. Probably as in any space, in any place where it's larger. And there are some folks who we don't work in the same way and share the same ideals. And it was a little bit of a rough learning, honestly, for me. It was unexpected and kind of heartbreaking in some ways. Even though that might be the reality of things everywhere, it just wasn't the reality that I had with burlesque. And since it was just me for a while, and I kind of got to create the community, and then when Jake, who still has North Bay Cabaret, came into it, I called him and asked him if he wanted to just sit down and talk. And I openly shared with him everything that I had learned. And I said, I want us to be able to collaborate and support each other and uplift each other. I don't want to compete with you. And he was like, absolutely. That's how I work too. And so it was great. So we had this, we started to grow this community. And if there were people who were not supportive or were difficult or rude or anything like that, they just kind of got pushed out because neither of us wanted to work with that. Mm-hmm. And we didn't want to support that. And so coming into a larger space, yeah, it's interesting. It's been a learning process, but I think there's room for everyone to find their niche, their group of people that they work with. And so that's lovely, right? Because I'm sure people feel that way about me too. they don't jive with how I work. So, yeah.
So speaking of how you work, what's your process for creating a new piece of burlesque for yourself?
The process once I decide on an idea is usually the same. So once I get to an idea, I will usually go through breaking down what the costume pieces are, which can be sketching or trying different things on. At this point, I have a good amount of stuff to pull from. And so sometimes I just pull things out of my closet and create a new act with it. And then I will break down my music, which involves listening to it a whole lot. And then I start to break it down into kind of musical sections, so maybe like a chorus, a verse, a bridge, that sort of thing. And then I'll break down the counts in that. So most of the music that we work with is eight count music, and so I'll just break down, there's 5 8 counts in this section. Sometimes the choreography comes really quickly and really easily, and it just comes when I'm listening to the music. Sometimes I have to sit in my studio for a while and keep poking at it. I try to video myself always so that I can see what I look like. And fortunately, I have these nice mirrors in my studio, so I get a little bit more immediate feedback. And then sometimes I'll just work on sections here and there and just set it aside and come back to it. Sometimes it happens really quickly, and then other times it's just a really long process of coming up with things. And the ideas come from a lot of places. That's I don't know, just when inspiration just happens sometimes. Sometimes it's a costume or a picture, and I'm like, I want to do something like that. Sometimes it's a piece of music. Sometimes it's actually an idea that I've come with. Sometimes it's a theme that's been suggested. Yeah. It's kind of wild where the ideas come from.
That's great.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of talk about cultural appropriation. What's your working definition of that, and what are the things you consider when creating a new routine?
To me, I take my cue from people who have felt like their cultures have been appropriated. So what I offer is, what I have been taught by them. And I look at it as something that comes from another culture that I do not have a personal connection through my heritage or upbringing to. And especially cultures that have been colonialized or subjugated, and then taking from that and presenting that as, something from myself. One of the best ways I've heard it described is you need to consider if it's your story to tell. And so I like that description, and I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think it's really important to be really aware of it and thoughtful of it. I want to be in a more equitable world where people feel like their voices are heard and valued, not just heard, but valued and appreciated and respected and acted upon. So I feel like performance is definitely a place where I can reinforce that. Teaching, absolutely. We have a long conversation when I'm teaching about staying away from social or cultural appropriation. And I encourage my students to look on social media and to learn, and I give them some resources for doing that. And I tell them, you don't need to agree with it to understand that it is present, and you are jeopardizing yourself if you do those things. And I will leave that choice to you. I don't want to tell other people necessarily how to live their lives, but I do try to set them up for the best success. And I've definitely seen people not be as thoughtful as they could be and get nailed for it, sometimes justifiably so. Really.
You just mentioned inclusion. So what's your experience with diversity in burlesque in Portland? What have you seen? What would you like to see? How do you try to practice diversity?
So in Portland, I do feel like there's a good amount of inclusion of communities who are present and work to make themselves more visible. So I feel like there's a lot of LGBTQ inclusion. I mean, Portland's not a really racially diverse city, unfortunately. I mean, it is so more than where I was living before, so there's that. But I feel like that level of inclusion of performers of color is still something that is being worked on quite a bit. And unfortunately, it takes those communities putting themselves out there and being really vocal about it. And so for myself, I try to support that more. I try always to, consider that in my booking decisions, to make sure I have a balanced show, where I can hire even male performers. I like to do that. There aren't so many male performers, but I do try to hire male performers as well. Performers of multiple ages. I'm, coming up on year 46 myself, and I'm a mom. That's not always represented. I don't think people always think of that as diversity, but it is. Body sizes and types. I think lots of people are beautiful, and audiences appreciate seeing people that represent different communities. And they might be that community, and that might be the only place they ever see that on stage. So I think that's a really wonderful opportunity that we have and could be done more. And I decided recently to start sponsoring a queer POC show called Melange. So I'm giving them a sponsorship amount every month for their show. I'm gonna do my damnedest to get there. Sometimes it's really hard to get out to all of the things, and also helping promote them. And I not asking for anything in return. I think that was really important to me, is I didn't want it to feel like I needed anything from them, and I wasn't trying to control it. I just wanted to support them in doing it. So I'm just being in the background. And I've told them, whatever you need, let me know, and I'll help you in any way I can. Yeah.
So people outside of burlesque, when you tell them that you do burlesque, what comments do you get?
Most people are like, oh, that's neat. What is that? Some people have actually been to shows and they understand. And they're supportive. And I think a lot of people think burlesque is the movie, which it's not. It's that I love the movie. It's got a lot of beautiful dancing and costumes, but I would consider that more like sexy cabaret or heels or something like that. So there's that. I usually have to explain a little bit to people what it is. I do usually wait to say something about it until I know somebody decently, particularly other parents. I just want to make sure they know who I am, because I feel like a lot of people equate burlesque with stripping and they have judgments about stripping. To me, burlesque is a throwback of current stripping, and no one should be judged for doing it because everybody's working and making money and they're valid careers in my mind. But I just, I want to be able to get along with the parents of my friends' children, things like that. That's important. I don't bring it up necessarily when I'm at work either. There's some things where it just feels like it should be kept out of. Yeah. I've not had anyone to my face say anything derogatory about it. I have had troll comments online about things, but I don't know. I don't know them. They don't know me. I don't care about them.
So you've already talked a little bit about how burlesque empowers people. Anything more you want to say about that?
About the empowerment aspect of it?
Yes.
I don't know if there's more to elaborate on. Just that I love it. It's there. It's as we were talking about earlier, it's really accessible and open. And I think there are a lot of opportunities for people to step into burlesque from lots of different places, from many different backgrounds. So I really appreciate that. And I feel like the audiences are very supportive and loving, and it really does give people a forum to share themselves in a way that we don't often get to, and get to be appreciated for sharing ourselves.
So when people say that burlesque can be a force for social change, this is a piece of it?
I think that's real. I really do. Yeah. That's like going back to just why I perform, really. It was one of the first, I don't write a lot, but when I do, it's really thoughtful things. And that was one of the first things I wrote about was, why do I strip? Why am I taking off my clothes in front of other people? That sounds kind of crazy, and especially if you call yourself a feminist. There are many feminists who think that, you're doing it solely for the male gaze or that sort of a thing. And my response to that is, well, first of all, I'm not. But if I am, why is that a problem? That's my choice. And that's the beauty of it. It is my choice to do this. And that's why it is a feminist act. I'm choosing everything about how I present myself and what I do on stage and how I control it. And the fact that we can have more voices heard and seen and shared. I've seen some really heart-wrenching burlesque performances about people really throwing it down on stage about mental health issues, body issues, physical disability, and struggles that they've come through with addiction and sexual abuse and things like that. Like, it's not all fun and games. There's some real stuff that happens on the stage, which is incredibly powerful. And the joy and the fun and all that is really important too. It's rare to go out into spaces and find people being so willing to share themselves, and the audience so willing to appreciate that. And you get this wonderful feedback, and I don't think it just stays there. It absolutely walks away with people and it impacts them. And I have students who have maybe taken one class, and they never get on a stage and perform. But the confidence that they have built up being in class and having people appreciate them and loving them for sharing themselves and being with other women, loving each other, absolutely goes out the door with them. And it changes things for them. I've seen people absolutely start to take control of their regular day-to-day life once they have come into a burlesque class. So I think absolutely it can be, and I hope people don't think, just because things are fun and light that they're not important. Like, light is important. We need that in our world too. Change doesn't always have to be painful. It can be beautiful and sublime.
So what are some challenges facing burlesque today?
Challenges. Well, there's always, I think, a money challenge, really. I mean, we want to present beautiful, gorgeous things on stage, and that takes resources. And we don't always have, a 200-person house. They're paying $40 a ticket to come in. Sometimes you're performing in a bar for 20 people, and maybe they paid $5, and they probably are tipping because they're awesome people. They're supportive. So that's a challenge, always. Most of us are doing this on the side. So time is always a challenge of, being able to fit in whatever you have going on in your life, day job, parenting, caretaking, maybe work multiple jobs, just all of those kinds of things. I think those are ongoing challenges people have. There's a lot of entertainment options for people, including not even leaving the house. So there's always that of like trying to get people just in the door to the shows. I think sometimes we're destructive with each other, honestly. I think call out culture has gotten big in the world overall, and I certainly can understand why and the necessity for it in many cases. And I've also seen it just really tear people apart in ways that make me sad. And I really do appreciate, like, if you have something that you could say and you're willing to expend that energy to go to somebody and tell them that what they did hurt you or was causing an issue. I think that's really incredible, and it's a gift to give to someone. They don't always appreciate it. But it's a beautiful thing to do. I don't know that social media is the place to do it. I feel like those are private conversations to have with people. And I've seen that, somebody says something that somebody did upset them. And I think like there's a time and place for it. If it's really a safety issue and somebody could be harmed by you not speaking up, I personally feel like it's important to speak up. And I've done that, and I took flack for it. I had people who, didn't agree with me for whatever reasons and then didn't want to work with me and that sort of thing. But ultimately, I decided, knowing what I know, if I didn't say something and other people got hurt, it would be on me. And I had to be responsible for that. And the integrity of that was much more important to me than being able to do a particular show. So I've seen some of those things happen. So that's hard and sad to see. I don't know, what are other challenges? I feel like that's the biggest challenge, really. That we create it for ourselves, unfortunately.
So, final question. What do you wish the general public would understand about burlesque?
Would understand about burlesque? Well, I'd like them to know how difficult it is. Just gathering the resources and presenting things on stage. I'd like them to appreciate that, and when they see a higher ticket price or something like that, that it doesn't prevent them from coming out and appreciating a show. And I think I like the trolls to know that even if it's not for them, it's not for them, and they don't need to say anything about it. They can just stay out of it. Honestly, I don't appreciate people judging other people by how they're living their lives and telling other people what they should and shouldn't do generally. Obviously, please don't kill people and, those kinds of things. But I think we all understand that's pretty basic. But on top of the rest of it, like, if you're not hurting anyone else, really, I feel like you should be left to do what you want to do. And for so many of us, burlesque is a real joy spot. So I think I would like, people who enjoy and support it to come out and support it more. And if it's not your thing, just stay away and be quiet about it.
Great. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.